welcome to episode 43 of Random Encounter, the RPG fan podcast. I'm your host, Robert Steinman, Pale Robbie on the boards, slightly sick with a massive sinus infection. This is why I hate the springtime. So bear with me a little bit. Joining me today, we have Editor-in-Chief of New Zealand.
I've been demoted to Editor-in-Chief of let's say Monaco.
Monaco? What do you got against Monaco?
The country?
That's a principality.
My mistake. I apologize.
This is John McCarroll. I'm John on the forums now.
Yeah, why did you change to just John? What do you, like, share or something?
Yeah, I'm John. I'm just John.
Ashton is now just Ashton as well.
Yep,
I meant to take that on our old board system before our 2006 wipe, but actually someone else had the name just John. So they're gone now, though. So it's my name.
Mysteriously, they are gone. So, Joining us today, we have the man who loves Zidane, and that's always what his little Skype character looks like. Or not anymore, but your character on our website. Sorry, I'm really sick.
That's okay. Stephen Meyer, Taylor's on the boards.
Excellent. And then we have the man who is also getting over being sick, and he loves him some Xenoblade.
Derek Heemsbergen, I'm Embryon on the boards.
Excellent. And then the man who continues to defend Mass Effect 3 and everything about it. He believes that the ending is awesome and that BioWare, they are in fact gods.
I have never said that, okay?
They are gods.
I'm Ashton. Actually, my name on the boards is now Ashton, so that people don't have to pronounce it weird anymore. I was actually thinking about changing it to Bob, just to mess with people.
Yeah, but then they think that it was me, and you would just get an influx of hate mail for daring to give Xenoblade a 90.
Hey, I wouldn't change my email to Bob.
Okay, fair enough. So what do we have to talk about today? We got a little bit of Xenoblade to talk about. We had a massive Xenoblade podcast back in the day, but it's probably a good time to talk a little bit more about it. And then we're going to talk about some Tales games because, what is it? Today is Saturday, so there must have been a Tales game released, apparently. I'm just...
No, it's Tales games are released on Tuesday.
My mistake. So, let's start out by talking about some Xenoblade. I reviewed it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I gave it a 90. It's quite good.
Yes, I've played about 20 minutes of it.
And that was before you sent it to me.
Yes. Which is why your review was not shrink wrapped. I
was wondering about that. I was like, this is mysteriously open. I'm okay with this.
I played the Japanese version for around 30 to 40 hours. I didn't actually finish the story, which is why I never actually wrote the review for it when it came out in Japan. But yeah, it's one of the better JRPGs this generation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I've
been playing it as well.
Go ahead, Steven. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying I've been playing it as well, and I definitely think it's one of the more solid JRPGs we've had in a substantial amount of time. And it's not one of those second-tier JRPGs that are super duper wacky and full of incredibly irritating gameplay mechanics.
And large breasts.
Yes, and large breasts. Although Charlotte can.
Although they do have some skip me clothing in there.
Well, a lot of that comes from the loot in the game, and the fact that there is a massive amount of loot. So yeah, I did the review of Xenoblade, and I liked it quite a bit. I think Steven said it before on our Xenoblade show that it really is Final Fantasy XII done right, and I totally agree with that. It is a large, sprawling RPG with no random encounters with enemies on the field. You engage them in MMO-style combat, where one character is acting as a tank, another character is acting as a buffer debuffer, and then you have a healer, and you can have alternates in between. And I really enjoyed it. It does feel like it comes together a lot better than a game that came out. When was Final Fantasy XII? Was that 2006, 2007?
2005.
Oh my gosh, was it that long ago?
It was a long time ago.
I don't think it was 2005 though.
That might have been the Japanese.
Oh no! I played the Japanese version, so that was 2005.
Yeah, okay, that sounds about right.
2006.
And it comes together in a really awesome way, and it's fun to play. And I think that the one thing that I really came away with the game was that I found it to be very relaxing. I found it to be a game that I could sit down for hours on end and play and really enjoy it and not get super frustrated or super it may sound like a knock on the game, but like I wasn't sucked into the game, but I was definitely enjoying my time with it. You know what I mean? Like I was having a really, really good time playing the game. So the only thing that really there were only a couple problems that I had with the game. For starters, I think the menus are fine, but they're like the item menus in particular can get really nuts. Like every time I had to go into my inventory and refit characters, it's just there's too many pieces of equipment and it's really awkward to scroll around. I mean that was a little troubling. More egregious, you get something like 500 side quests in this game, and the side quests where you don't have to return to the quest giver are totally fine. Like a quest giver will tell you, oh, go out and slay 5 bunny rabbits, and I'm being quite literal there. You slay the 5 bunny rabbits and it's mission complete. You don't have to go back and talk to them. The ones that you do have to go back and talk to, that sucks, because the game does not do a good job of telling you where things are.
And definitely, like, I just think with that many quests in the MMO, go do X number of things and then go ahead and do this, they really needed like I can't remember if it was World of Warcraft or which show ended up adding, like, it shows you the vicinity on the map that the quest is in.
Yeah, World of Warcraft does that.
Yeah, it really needed that. Like, it didn't have to specifically say, but just because there's so many different tiny little nooks that have, like, quest items in them, I mean, you could need to find something, and it could be a little glowing orb in a quadrant of the map that's, like, out in the middle of nowhere, and you have no indication of where it is. And then when you find the item, they're like, yeah, go back to Bob in town. And Bob in town is in the middle of like 1,000 NPCs.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I think that everything else that they do in the game is much, much friendlier than a typical JRPG.
Absolutely.
Now, what's interesting is I don't like I'm going to hold your hand like they do in Fable, where there's a shiny gold line wherever you need to go.
Right.
But I do like the way that games like Dead Space or I can't think off the top of my head where other games that do it, where you click in the left stick, and obviously you can't do that on the Wii because you can't click in that stick. And it's like, oh, you need to head in this direction.
Yeah,
Okay,
keep going.
No, something like that is immensely useful, and it's not intrusive like it is in Fable.
Yeah, like it's subtle, and it's within, like, in Dead Space, it's a part of his suit. Like, it's even like they even refer to it in the game, like, oh, this is your nav point in the suit.
So it's kind of like that pathfinding spell in Skyrim.
Right. I actually think one of the things that Skyrim did pretty well, especially compared to New Vegas. Like, New Vegas would constantly send me like, okay, is the quest giver on the top floor or is he on the bottom floor? And a lot of that had to do with the leveling structures. But I thought Skyrim did a really good job. Like, I never felt lost finding someone. And for everything that Xenoblade does so well, I mean, I love the fact that you can save anywhere. I love the fact that if you die in this game, it just sets you back to a landmark. If Skyrim did that, I would love Skyrim so much more, because it's a game about exploration. It's a game about go out, have some fun, find some people. If you run into a level 90 frog and they stomp on you and kill you, we're not going to penalize you for that. We're just going to send you back, and you don't have to worry about it. No muss, no fuss. Like, I love that about this game.
That happened to me in Tales of Graces, actually. Going back to the game we're going to talk about later, there was one point where it's like, you need to go south. And like in most JRPGs, you expect, okay, I'm going to go in one direction, and there's going to be little things on the side that I need to go and explore, because that's where all the items are. So there's a little place off to the east in this desert. I don't go off to the east.
In the desert, right? Yep.
And you get into one battle, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to kill you in 2 hits.
Yeah, that was the optional part with all, like, level 90 enemies. Yeah, I made that mistake the first time through the desert, too.
And it's frustrating. And do you know what game I think did it right? And I go back to it because it had, and it's such an odd game, is Super Mario RPG. Had so many design decisions that were so friendly.
Oh, I remember
that. If you died in Super Mario RPG, it brought you back to your save point, and you kept all of the experience that you had accrued up to that point.
I remember that.
We're all yelling at Steven right now.
I think Earthbound has a similar system where I think, what was it, where if you touched an enemy that was like significantly lower in level, you just killed it outright.
You know what game that was incredibly frustrating in is Hyperdimension Neptunia 2. Because you would go and try and find items to kill things, and you would attack them, and they would just disappear, and you would get nothing.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh no, I haven't experienced that. I've played that game some, and I feel okay. I only want to. I don't know why I'm even talking about this. I feel like an idiot because, I'm not a huge proponent of DLC, but I bought a piece of DLC for that game. I wanted Falcom because I love that company, and I'm not even in the chapter when I can use it yet, and that game has far exceeded my patience. That's not a good game. Moving on.
Well, I think
Yeah,
God,
I think hyperdimensional Neptunia is one of those things that does DLC really wrong. I mean, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but everything about that game really annoys me. Like the gameplay, the characters, the setting. I mean, I'm all for parodies and stuff like that. But hyperdimensional Neptunia is just, it seems like a complete fan service game, and some of the DLC is just insulting. It's like you have a character join you in the middle of the game, and then they say, oh, in order to use this character, you have to download our DLC. Buy it now. It's just annoying.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about bad DLC some when we come back to Tales of Graces.
So bringing it back to Xenoblade, I think that the pure adventuring part of Xenoblade, once you finally get out into like these massive overworlds and just so many places you can go and so many different things you'll find. The game rewards you with XP if you find a certain landmark. If you find a certain area, if you find a secret area, it's constantly rewarding your exploration. And I think that's something that when you compare it to like Final Fantasy XII, because I consider this game to be very similar to Final Fantasy XII, I never felt rewarded for anything other than fighting, and the fighting grew very tiresome, whereas the fighting in Xenoblade, it just feels so much fun because you're controlling one character, and you can switch out of combat which character you want to play as, and since each character has their role in battle, you get to see the inner workings of the fight. And for the most part, I found this interesting reading other people's reviews, and I think it has a lot to do with the way I played the game. A lot of people complained about the AI partners, and they were like, well, my AI partner was being really stupid, and they weren't helping me or they weren't healing me at the right time. But if you do any number of the side quests, if you do like maybe 5 of every 10 side quests that you pick up in an area, so let's say half, you will be so overpowered when you're running through that area to actually finish story missions. It won't matter if your guys are doing anything stupid in battles because you literally won't lose a hit point.
But that's not an excuse. Like
No, it's not an excuse, but it's something like I didn't notice it. I didn't notice my party members doing anything stupid because I was always about 5 levels above whatever I was fighting.
See, for me, when I played it, I mean, I'm still playing it now. I don't understand what the complaints are because I feel like the healers are, I almost always play as Shulk, and I have no problem with what my party does. Like, Ryan always knocks the enemy off balance if I need them to do it. Charlotte will heal if I need her to. She'll buff. So I don't understand that complaint, and I feel like it comes from, like, with Final Fantasy 13 and, with people not liking not being able to control their other party members in battle. But I don't feel like Xenoblade has any problem with that. And I actually specifically said when I talked about the game in the past that the party is awesome at doing what you need them to do.
There were only a few moments that I felt that they were being a little stupid, but again, with a little bit of over-leveling and with some correct choices in the middle of battle, you kind of overcome it. There are times when the battles are, like, insane. I mean, there's just all kinds of crap happening, buffs, debuffs, spells, attacks. But what they do is a really ingenious system of if something really bad is about ready to happen, then the main character Shulk will get a vision of, say a party member getting ready to be wiped out. And so then you can go about, preventing that from happening. And I think that reels in the battle system. I think without that, it might have been very frustrating, but it plays not only to the battle system, it also plays into the story. And I think that's one thing Xenoblade does so well and so many JRPGs miss out on. Things that Shulk develops, things that the party develop in terms of, their mutual like for each other in and out of cutscenes and in the field, that plays into both the combat and the way the story plays out. Now, it's not huge sweeping changes in the story, but it's like Shulk starts to see visions in cutscenes, and he starts to see, adventures that him and his crew are going to have. Well, then that plays into the combat. So you don't have this wide disparity between cutscene characters and what's going on in combat. And I think that's something that JRPGs have really struggled with, and Xenoblade does very, very well.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the best parts of the game is that the characters' relationships have combat implications. Like, I love the Tales series and I love the skits, But for all intents and purposes, the skits are separate from the characters as battle parties. So, like, to have Xenoblade where when you see the heart-to-hearts and you support them in battle, you get something. You actually get something out of that. I think it's just a fantastic connection of the story in the game and the actual playing of the game.
Yeah.
So, Derek, you played how many hours of the original European import?
I don't know, like 80 or 90 ridiculousness.
And are you going to pick up the American version and start it all again?
I was actually thinking about it. Well, I know that I want to get it again anyway, just to support them for bringing it here, because this is in my probably top 5 games of all time. You have no idea. I love this game.
Wow.
But I said that before. Don't even act surprised.
No. But it's like I really liked it. I think it's the best JRPG that I've played since Persona 4. I don't like it as much as Persona 4 though. For whatever reason, Persona 4 just struck a chord with me, and I probably will never forget that game. The one thing about Xenoblade is I've played so much of it, and I am starting to get a little worn down with it. You know what I mean? I like the battle system, I like the characters, but I do kind of feel okay,
The side quests will burn you out pretty easily in that game.
That's the only flaw in the game right now.
I feel like
funny. Too much
Xenoblade.
content.
I feel like Xenoblade is one of those styles of games where you can't shotgun it. It doesn't work. Need to be. You have to have some kind of modicum of play. It's like when you play an MMO. I can't play an MMO for more than an hour at a time, because if I'm doing questing, I'm I'm killing a bunch of random crap. And I think that like I said, I by far played the least amount of Xenoblade of anyone here, but I feel like that's the kind of game that it would be.
Yeah, having to marathon the game was not a pleasant experience, and it was if you go into a town and get every quest in the town and go out and try to complete every quest, you're going to drive yourself insane. It's just not meant to be played like that. This is not Skyrim. This is not, I get all these quests and I want to do all of them. This is you should do some of them, but not all of them.
Compare everything to Skyrim. I just wanted to say that.
Sorry.
I think the game, too, early on in the game and in the story, you don't want to be doing every side quest, but I haven't made it to the absolute end yet, but I think to do some of the optional boss fights and some of the super powerful monsters, I think you actually do have to be kind of grossly over-leveled.
Well, some of the first monsters you can run into once you get onto the Bionis' leg are level 96 Triceratops.
Yeah, I think those are more post-game content to me.
Yeah, exactly. So it may break the balance of the story as you go to do all the side quests, but when you go back to do the post-game stuff, you're going to have to go and do everything.
It's kind of complaining about getting to a monster hunt in Final Fantasy 12 or something, and then saying, "Oh, it's too high level," but you're supposed to come back to it later. Trying to tackle Yasmad when you're level 30 is not going to be really productive to your gaming experience.
Wasn't Yasmad the boss that took 5 hours?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I didn't fight him.
Do we all have Monster Hunter Tri? Because I had to pick it up to get this plays into Xenoblade. I was having such a bear of a time playing Xenoblade with a Wiimote and a nunchuck that I gave in, went out, bought Monster Hunter Tri for $20 so I could get a Wii Classic controller.
I actually got the Monster Hunter Tri with the Classic Controller Pro when it first came out. I don't know what it is, but I can't get into Monster Hunter. I own 3 different versions of it. And
I have the same feelings. I mean, Monster Hunter. When I lived in Asia, China, Taiwan, Japan, everybody loved that game because I don't know. It's because people loved playing it together. But for some reason, I've just found the battle system clunky, and I don't know. Killing dragons after the first time just didn't cut it anymore.
Yeah, it's very Phantasy Star styled, but I think because it gets rid of progression, and it doesn't get rid of progression completely, but because it's more oriented around player skill than RPG progression, it doesn't appeal to me.
And see, that's probably why it's going to appeal to me. That's probably why. There were moments playing Xenoblade where at the very beginning of the game you can get really frustrated because you haven't had a chance to overlevel, and those were the moments where I was like, wow, I feel like I can't beat this guy and there's nothing I can do. Okay, walk away, 5 hours later come back and just steamroll him. And that can be frustrating, and I think I prefer the games where and that's not to say that Xenoblade completely plays with numbers, but it is very much a traditional RPG in that sense. It is an RPG where if your numbers are better than their numbers, you're going to win. And maybe that's why something like Monster Hunter would actually appeal to me. We don't cover Monster Hunter, do we?
No, because it's not. It loses much of the progression from other games. It's got some decent exploration.
Okay.
And it's got, but it's not something we cover at RPG Fan.
Yeah, it's more of an action game.
I was listening to, or no, I was watching actually something on Penny Arcade talking about the description of RPGs and Western versus JRPGs and all that kind of stuff. And something interesting came to mind because I think it matches something I've never been able to put words to, which is when I'm trying to figure out what an RPG is, I look at its primary, what it's trying to do, the primary thing that it's trying to do. And if that kind of matches up with what my definition of an RPG is. So they say an RPG is a game that you play to be engrossed, or they play. I forget what it was. It's been a while since I've watched it. But I think it's important to look at what the primary of the game is, which is honestly why I think that a game like Mario Tennis for the Game Boy Advance is more of an RPG than Monster Hunter.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's something we fight with constantly, is what is an RPG. I mean, I was very adamant about the fact I didn't consider Mass Effect 2 to be much of an RPG. I don't see Mass Effect 3 as much of an RPG. To me, it's Uncharted with, skill development. And conversation trees.
Well, conversation trees are very important when it comes to, if it's a primary, yes, that's important. And in Mass Effect, that certainly is a primary because character interaction is a primary. It's not Uncharted, which is action and cutscenes first, and there are no conversation trees in Uncharted. So,
and plus, I think too, you could look at a game like Planescape. If you took the leveling up out of Planescape Torment, would that not be an RPG? Because people would argue that the combat in that game is completely secondary to the dialogue and the conversations anyway.
No, it's true. It's true. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be covering Mass Effect, but it's to each his own. It's to each his own. What is an RPG?
I mean, even if you consider the character progression system, Mass Effect 2 and 3 do have their specific character progression systems and character creation and character customization that are inherent in an RPG in the gameplay sense, which is why when people go on our Facebook and Facebook site and then say, "Oh, Mass Effect isn't an RPG. You shouldn't even be covering this." I'm like, yeah, but it is an RPG. It's marketed as an RPG. It's designed as an RPG, et cetera, et cetera.
I think that some of the people that we get on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere, and I don't mean this to be an insult, but a lot of people don't view many Western developed games as RPGs, and this is something that we've seen consistently.
Oh yeah,
is that we have a lot of fans, a lot of very hardcore fans about Japanese style RPGs, and they don't view anything else as an RPG. And you know what? That's fine. As Rob said earlier, to each his own. But I think that yes, they are different styles of game. It's interesting that we call them both RPGs, considering that what they set out to do and how they are put together are completely different.
Yep.
But yeah. I think at the end of the day, they're both RPGs, and that's why we cover them here.
Well, to put it rather bluntly, Xenoblade, pretty freaking awesome. Pretty good game. I would definitely recommend it to people. Go back and listen to our huge Xenoblade podcast if you want to hear us go even more in depth about the game. But for what it is, I mean, I think Xenoblade is an awesome game. Definitely worth your time. Glad to see it in America. And I've been very cynical about JRPGs on this show. I mean, I've been very outspoken that I think the JRPG, I haven't really played one that I enjoyed since Persona 4, and now I can say I really, really enjoyed Xenoblade. And it's not a dead genre, but it's a genre that it needs to find something. It needs to do something, and it has.
I don't want to have this conversation today.
Okay.
And we're not going to. But the point that I want to put forth is I think that the problem with the JRPG in North America is that companies aren't willing to put a very large budget into it unless they're sure that it's going to sell.
Right, like Final Fantasy.
And I think that's why we saw a whole lot of handheld JRPGs. I think that's why the PSP and probably the Vita will become these massive hubs for RPGs, same that the DS was, because I think that's the budget that's going to fit the Japanese style RPG. And you know what? I've got no problem with it. I don't need my JRPGs to have, these amazing budgets. As much as I enjoyed Final Fantasy 13 2, I don't need super amazing high def graphics to enjoy a game. I enjoyed Radiant Historia more than I did 13 2.
Well, and
Yeah,
I'm glad you just brought that up, because we were talking before about how one thing that was kind of troubling about Xenoblade was that, there's some trickery going on to make the game work on the Wii. And then I think it was Steven was like, yeah, don't you wish it was on like the PlayStation 3? And I made the argument that I'm sure John would make, if you had been here in the pre-show warm-up, that if that game was on PS3, it would have been completely different, because it would have had a different budget. It would have had, different elements going into it. It turned out the way it did because of the platform that it's on. It probably would not have been the same, and it would have been a much bigger budget to make a big, high-def game capable of competing with something like a Final Fantasy.
Yeah. I'm very, very, very interested to see the kind of RPGs that we get on Vita, because I think that we're going to see... This is my prediction. This is my middle of the year prediction. It's
Sweet.
April. I don't care. Where I think the Vita is kind of in the PlayStation 2 sweet spot, where you can have relatively large budget games and make, but when I say large budget, I mean that look like they have large budget. They have good graphics, but not, you don't have to spend millions of dollars on a graphics team. It's that sweet spot. We're going to get good games out of the Vita, and I hope that it's amazingly successful, because it's a great system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have that hope as well. It's just that the Vita hasn't really started off on the right foot right now.
I don't know. I thought it had a pretty damn good launch.
It had a good launch. I mean, but as far as RPGs go, not really a good track record.
I have to ask you, Ashton, because I was thinking about importing it. Ragnarok Odyssey. Have you had a chance to play it yet?
No, I haven't tried it yet. I do plan on trying to import it in the near future, but right now financials are kind of tough.
Okay. No, I hear you. I was looking at PlayAsia, and it was like $85, and I was like, I don't speak Japanese. I think I'm gonna wait for the mainland Asian version to import, because it was like $20 less.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably when I'll get it, because I speak a little bit of moon runes as well.
So, really quick, if you're interested in hearing more about Xenoblade, it was episode number 32 from last September, where we all talked about the European version.
Wow, that long ago?
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Wow, times have changed.
But anyway, if you do love JRPGs, or if you care about JRPGs in any capacity and you have a Wii, you probably should get Xenoblade, because it's actually probably like it's probably representative of how JRPGs will be received by American audiences.
Yeah, so if you own a Wii and you want RPG, guess what? It's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So hooray.
Completely agree. All right, you guys have some Tales games to talk about while I sit here and try to nurse my sore throat.
Yeah, so we have Tales of Grace's F, which is very, very interesting. I think it comes down to the fact that we haven't gotten every Tales games here, but I find myself completely enamored with this game's battle system, because it's different from Vesperia's and Abysses and Legendia's and all those others. In complete function, there's no MP. There's the CC system, which is absolutely brilliant in the way that it works, because
Right.
you're never trying to, okay, I've got to conserve MP. I can't use special powers. Whatever. You can get all your special powers back, or all your points back, in 5 seconds by doing nothing in battle.
Yeah, it's actually because this battle system was made by Team Destiny, whereas the ones we did get were all made by Team Symphonia.
If I recall, the CC system was the one that was in the Tales of Destiny remake, right?
Yeah, it was. It was actually, I think it was created in, it was either Tales of Rebirth or Tales of Destiny 2, neither of which we got.
Rebirth was awesome, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Rebirth was pretty good.
I have to say, I totally dig the battle system in this game, and as much as I honestly at this point don't care what's going on in the story, because it seems like every other Tales game I've ever played.
Yeah.
But I'm playing this almost purely for the battle system, but it's amazingly fun, and I can't get enough of it.
The Tales battle system in this is it's really different from, say, Tales of Vesperia and Tales of Symphonia, but in the same vein, it actually has a lot of problems in that, to execute some attacks, you actually have to use the attack before that on the flowchart, and nobody like.
You mean like, for example, like in Tales of Symphonia, you could combo from a level 1 to a level 2 to a level 3 tech?
Yeah, like if
or like
for example, if you
arts.
wanted to use, say, I don't know, Beast in Tales of Symphonia, you just mapped it to the B button. You press the B button and you use Beast. In Tales of Graces, they have a flowchart where you have to execute level 1 attacks, then level 2 attacks, then level 3 attacks. And Beast is a level 3 attack, so you have to get past the level 1 and level 2 attacks before you have access to Beast.
Sorry,
So-
I got interrupted. Are you describing A arts versus B arts?
Yeah, A arts, the difference between the Symphonia and Vesperia battle system as opposed to Grace's battle system, because in order for you to use certain abilities which have really nice effects, for example, Beast's ability to like knock down enemies, for Tales of Graces you have to go through level 1 and level 2 A arts in order to get access to Beast, whereas in Vesperia and Symphonia you could just map it to a button and just push that button.
As a result of that, has it come out that the level 3 arts are significantly stronger or more, I guess, specific than the level 1 ones?
Well, level 3, they aren't significantly stronger, but they do have certain aspects to them that you can't get with the other attacks. For example, some of the A arts, some of the characters can only steal with their A arts, certain A arts, and their A arts have different, more specialized uses. For example, they have a greater amount of hits, which can let you combo better, whereas B arts are more like, pure power.
I'll be honest. I stopped using A arts. I've been playing it. You can switch characters just like in any Tales game. I've been playing as Asbel, and I just stopped using A arts. Like,
Why?
I literally just use the power arts all the way through, and it's been effective for me.
But is it fun?
Yeah, I enjoy
Yeah,
it.
it's very fun.
See, I don't know. I guess I see it differently than you guys do, because, yeah, you do have to go through the tree to get to the higher level A arts, but that's why there's two kinds. It would be annoying if that was the only kind of arts, but I don't really have a problem with that, because you can still map, like, the special B arts to the other button, and then
Yeah,
I'm not saying that. Both.
I'm not saying that I don't like them, because you have a greater variety, because you can only assign 4 A arts or 4 B arts at a time.
Yeah.
8 with shortcuts, but yeah.
Oh, wait, how do you assign more than 4? I'm curious.
You can set a shortcut to like move the right analog stick in different
Yeah.
directions.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. But I mean, like for me, it's more like based on the A arts or B arts that I've set, is that I can combo people, get them into the air easier with B arts, and then my AI controlled allies then beat on them as I try and do something more tactical, or I can hit a larger amount of enemies. Like, I've got Asbel's one spin attack that's been amazing up to this point, because it's like, oh, everyone come chase me, stop. Okay, hit everyone 4 times.
The thing that I like about the battle system and the variety is that, like you said, John, it's easy. You can just change characters on the fly. But throughout the entire game, every once in a while, I would just change my main and play as another person, and it made it, like every time I got to a new dungeon, if I was like, crap, I don't feel like going through this dungeon, I just play it as a different main character, and I felt like it created sort of like a user, a challenge at the user level. Like, I decided that I wanted to do this dungeon using Malik, let's say, but it's, there's so much variety because you learn how to play each character, so it's a little bit like a fighting game in that respect.
Now, I have a legitimate question for everyone. This is not specific to Graces, but does anyone else have huge issues playing as a magic user?
Yeah, I've played a lot of the Tales games. I've played multiplayer with friends, and it's fun insofar as, Tales of the Abyss, you can have 2 people playing as Luke and Guy. In Symphonia, you can have somebody playing as Kratos and Lloyd. But the magic characters, it's not as fast or as visceral. It's just stand back, cast, stand back, cast. Okay, Abyss, I got the button that makes me cast faster if I mash the button.
For Graces, they kind of fixed it because, for example, Pascal, all her spells focus on her as the epicenter, so you have to be somewhat close to the enemies for her to actually be effective. Plus, they have actual physical attacks via their A arts. So it's not really like in Vesperia or Symphonia where spellcasters are a total bore to play as. But from what I understand, there are some people who actually prefer to play as spellcasters, and it's kind of like in the Street Fighter series where you play as Blanca. If you play as Blanca, you're either going to suck at him, but be better at someone else, or you are going to suck at everyone else and be excellent as Blanca. I think spellcasters are kind of like that.
I think Tales of Graces is the first Tales game that makes it fun to play as a mage because, like you said, they all have A arts that are actually comboable. And if you do play as a magic caster, every A art that you combo before your actual spell will reduce the casting time of that spell by a certain percentage, depending on how many things you did before it in that combo. So, like, if you're playing as Malik and you want to do his big fiery boom explosion spell, it's stupid to just sit back and then use it and wait, and then sit back and use it and wait. You throw his boomerang and do a few of those, and then if you have enough CC, you start the fire spell, and it goes like that. And well, maybe not that fast, but fast enough to make it interesting to play him. And it makes it so that there's a clear advantage to actually controlling a mage because they don't always do that. Even though playing as a melee character is probably easier and smarter, but there's a reason to try playing as mage characters in Graces, unlike in the other ones where it was just slow and boring.
I hear you. I do like how the games Eleth Break and Eleth, what's the other? The other one.
Eleth Break and Eleth Rise.
Mystic Arts or whatever.
Oh, it's not Rise in the US version.
Really?
Yeah, I forget what they're called, but in essence what they are is that one of them, we'll call them the blue Eleth and the red Eleth because that's what they are. In the blue one, I
think it was Eleth Rise. It's
not in the US version.
Really?
I know for a fact that it's not Eleth Rise.
The blue one is Eleth Break, and then
was it Eleth Burst? Was it Eleth Burst?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But essentially with I know Eleth Break is the blue one, where you get essentially an infinite amount of CC for, I don't know, like 10 seconds. And then the other one is you can't get enemies caught up in your combos because they're more powerful than you at that point. And I think it actually provides a modicum of strategy, especially against bosses who have special abilities that they can only use in the red Eleth mode.
Yeah, Mystic Arts.
Yeah. Which it actually really it's really intriguing. The game's battle system works.
See, yeah, for this game you have consequences to actually suffering enemy attacks more than just I lost HP and I have to heal, like in Vesperia and Symphonia. In this game, if enemies damage you or catch you in a combo, their Eleth meter rises, the red Eleth meter rises, and when they reach Eleth Break, they can catch you in their Mystic Arts. On the other hand, if you combo, then you can increase your Eleth meter and perform your Mystic Arts.
Are the Mystic Arts set up like they were in Abyss?
It's Eleth Break and Eleth Burst.
Yeah.
I got to admit that the game sounds a lot more complicated. Like, I've never played a Tales game before, and these games sound a lot more complicated than I originally thought. Maybe I got to check them out.
You won't like the story. I guarantee you, Rob.
Yeah, you're not going to. The story is pretty much the power of friendship rules all.
How do you guys know I won't like that? That's everything.
Because you're Rob.
No, I mean, that is kind of to be honest, that's the focal point in Dark Souls and Diablo.
And George R.R. Martin, Game of Thrones, of course, you know?
Yeah, everyone's total friends there.
I just wanted to
Stick
also
at
about
the pointy end.
But we will like the game for the fact that it really rewards you for playing well, because if you catch enemies in like multi-hit combos, then you can perform your Mystic Arts if you learn the specific abilities, instead of having to wait until your Eleth meter reaches max and then go into Eleth Burst and then using the Mystic Art. But if you combo enough, then you can use the Mystic Art well out of Eleth Burst.
Well, when a game rewards me for playing well, that's when I really enjoy it. And I think that that's something that occasionally with RPGs I get frustrated with. And it sounds like the Tale games, like you said, you play well and good things happen. It's like, gee, what a shock.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that the gameplay, because Rob is such a number phobe, numerophobe.
I like numerophobe. I think that's good.
Numerophobe. That's what Rob is, numerophobe. And while there are certainly numbers going on in the background for Tales games based on equipment and level and all that, if you are a more skilled player, you are going to do better than someone who is less skilled.
Absolutely. Like blocking attacks, building up combos. I mean, it's been that way for the longest time in that series. I actually think if you can get past the anime tropes in the series, Rob, you probably would enjoy it.
Well, it's not the number phobe thing in a traditional RPG. Numerophobe. Sorry, that doesn't bother me that much in a traditional RPG that's turn based and whatnot. But in an action RPG, that drives me crazy. Because like I know I'm good at action games, and if I start having trouble with an action game because they're just making the numbers work out against me, that's when I start getting really irritated.
All right, don't ever play Ease.
Yeah.
That's a game where one level
other
can
than
make
Tales
or
of
break
Grace's F, Tales of the Abyss also came out on the 3DS in February. So
did we talk about Tales of the Abyss? Didn't we?
Not
a little bit, yeah. When I bought it and we talked about it, and
I think Ashton, feel free to talk about it for a little bit, but I think we talked about it. We had a segment on a previous podcast about it.
I was actually more going for the fact that it's been like almost 4 years since Vesperia was released on the 360, and we have two Tales games in the span of 2 months. So I think anybody who wants to see Tales succeed needs to go out and buy these games.
Yeah, well, apparently it appears, at least from the outside, that Abyss did well because it was almost impossible to find like 3 weeks after its release.
Yeah, and the reprint also sold out really fast as well.
Yeah, if you haven't played Tales of the Abyss, and I mean, a lot of people you pick up a new console, a lot of people will complain, oh, hey, there are no RPGs yet. That Tales of the Abyss is one of the first RPGs on 3DS is pretty awesome for it because it's one of the better ones.
Yeah, definitely.
It's hit as some of the strongest characters for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a portable game. Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
That's okay. Just the most interesting and multi-layered characters, even if they are jerks.
Am I the... Well, but real people are jerks, and I think that gives them depth. I hate all of the characters with the exception of Malik in Grace's F. I find them all insufferable.
I love Malik, but I hate his voice. I hate it.
Why would you hate
Malik's? Well, why would you hate Malik's voice? His voice is awesome. He has some epic delivery.
He's the voice of Nier, and I like Nier, but for some reason that voice actor drives me up the wall. I don't know why.
Because he sounds so gravelly all the time.
Was that an Adam Jensen voice?
He just has a really deep voice.
Yeah, I think his voice, it seems like it's too deep for him. Like, I'm the oldest member of the party at the robust age of 35.
He's 40.
Well, that's a JRPG thing. That has nothing to do with the character itself. Here's what I do is I just assume that when it comes to an RPG that's developed in Japan, everyone's age is multiplied by 1.5.
Isn't Cloud 20? Cloud's like 20 or 21 in Final Fantasy VII.
Not even. Cloud is 17.
No. He's older than that.
Is he really?
He's 21. He's 21.
Okay. Well, or here's a great example. In Tales of Vesperia, Raven is like 31, and they refer to him as like a decrepit, dying old man.
Yep. No. My favorite was my buddy pointing out when like Final Fantasy VII was coming out, and he was showing me all the characters, and there's Barrett, this giant Mr. T looking guy, and he weighs like 170 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
That's actually one of the things that I found really insufferable about Tales games. I mean, like, I imported Tales of Innocence R from Japan for my Vita, and like one of the characters is like, and I wrote about this on the boards or somewhere anyway. And one of the female characters is 5'2", and she weighs like 115 pounds. And then everybody refers to her as the fat one, and she's all like, "Oh, I need to watch my weight." I'm all like, "You're borderline underweight. What the hell is wrong with you?"
Well, and then you watch something like Ninja Warrior, and you see an American compete on Ninja Warrior, and you realize that there's no way an American is ever going to win. Because they're just too big. It's like Makoto Nagano is like half my height and about 3 times as much muscle mass as me. It's like, gee, I wonder. How much does Cloud weigh? Like, he's like wafer thin. He's like 120 pounds. I think his sword maybe weighs more than him. Especially when he wraps it in tape for some reason.
He could not lift that sword with those chicken arms.
That's true.
Rob, I think I heard you make a veiled attempt at making fun of Kingdom Hearts. I take it back.
There was nothing veiled about it. Why does he wrap it in masking tape?
Because it's Kingdom Hearts. He can't hit people with the big sword. It's frightening. Even though later they get swords.
That's why we made it into a Keyblade.
which later on just starts to look like a knife anyway.
Yeah,
They're monks. They're unable to draw blood.
Yeah.
God's sake.
They just have to bludgeon people to death.
All right.
Okay, speaking of Races F, we were going to talk about the DLC. So, John, do you have anything to say about that?
Get him, John.
No. Even more than Neptunian 2 is Graces F does DLC wrong. Honestly, like they offer separate costumes to DLC. That is a lot of people are getting mad about it. That is okay with me. I don't care if you have extra whatever for DLC. You know what? I'm okay with DLC. I understand that it has to be done. What my problem is it's $3 or $4 per costume.
$4 per costume.
Per costume. And I'm not saying that when I say per costume, I'm not saying, oh, you pay $4, you get a full set of costumes for everyone. You pay $4, you get a single costume for a single character.
Yeah.
Yep. So theoretically, you have 6 party members. That's $24 for a full set of costumes. That took an intern a week to do.
Yeah, it's pretty god awful.
Which would have been in an old Tales game just as part of the package.
Now, there are some that are just in the game and you're paying to unlock them early.
Okay.
Those are only 99 cents though. The brand new costumes are $4 per character. And that
goodness
makes me angry because that's not what DLC is supposed to be about. You know what? I loved not all of them. I didn't like the first one, or I didn't like Dead Money, but the DLCs for Fallout New Vegas were the way you need to do DLC. $10, provide a good amount of content, and you're done. They integrate into the main game, and you have all the fun that you want to have.
I mentioned this before too. I agree; those ones are good. And the Borderlands DLC, it was like $10 or $15, and you get an extra 5-6 hours of gameplay. And it's not like half-assed kind of gameplay. I mean, you get a lot of cool new stuff.
Did you guys see?
My problem with Namco's DLC practices is it's getting more and more egregious. For example, you have like I think it was Katamari, which had like half of the DLC levels cut off as DLC,
and they were on the disc.
Yeah, they were on the disc, and half of them were cut up on DLC. Or say in Japan, the Idolmaster series, which has like $300 in DLC for each game or something.
What?
Yeah, something like that.
And Auto Assault, that's not it. Ace Combat. Ace Combat has like you can buy every single brand new plane and every skin for it, and you can spend $100 on planes.
Yeah. Also, there's also another thing that I find really alarming about this is that these two games haven't really been released in the U.S. yet, and I'm not sure they ever will. I hope they will. Well, I hope actually at least one of them will. Tales of Exilia and Tales of Innocence are seem really unfinished and rushed to release. Tales of Exilia has a really rushed storyline. Some of the side quests don't seem well formed. They don't have a large amount of side quests. Tales of Innocence half the skits aren't voiced. It's short. It's about 15 hours if you want to just focus on the story. The battle system elements do not gel well, but they have DLC like right after the release of these games for costumes that are like $4 each, and that's fine if the game itself was complete and I felt like I had like a non-rushed game. I mean, I realized they had deadlines for these. Exilia had to meet the Tales anniversary deadline, and had to meet the Vita launch window. But when they have these $4 per costume things right after the launch, it just feels kind of like a cheapening of the game, especially since, as an example, Exilia has 4 costumes in the game, whereas Abyss has like 33 total.
Yeah, I've said this before when I did my review of Mass Effect 3 from Ashes. I have no problem with day one DLC because I think we all know that games are finished essentially several months before they come to market. When I say finished, I mean actual content development. And so your content guys are working on other stuff, or they go off to other games or whatever. So I have no problem with a DLC coming out on day one. It's when it's simply egregious things like the costumes or the plain skins or the levels in Katamari, or Namco does a really, really crappy job at this. And that's honest. I like a lot of Namco's games, but their DLC practices suck.
John, do you know, I mean, just to see them keep doing this, I know another company that's cited pretty often for pretty bad execution of DLC is Capcom. Are they making money off of this stuff? Like, is Namco making money, and that's why they keep getting away with this and slowly?
Yeah, they're making money off the hardcore fans.
Yeah, they're going off the free-to-play MMO market, essentially, which is frustrating considering that, well, I have no problem if I need to spend money to buy wacky hat in any free-to-play MMO because I'm not paying anything for the game itself. I'm not paying a subscription. I'm not paying anything to get started. Mm-hmm. But I paid $60 for Tales of Grace's F.
Yeah.
And,
right.
There is a certain amount of content that you should expect. Now, I don't agree with the people who say, oh, all DLC should be free. I already paid for this game. Well, no, that doesn't fly with me. The concept of DLC is such that we're going to continue working on the game and creating new content after it's done because it's functional.
Yep.
But if I'm paying $60 for a game, I don't expect to pay money for a hat. That's why I'm paying money for the game.
The Borderlands guys came out this week and said that each one of the Borderlands packs they completed in 8 weeks. 8 weeks after. That's amazing. Like, that's the way DLC needs to be done. Keep the experience rolling and keep it coming out at a timely pace. I think Bethesda, we're only going to start. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really trying here. We're only going to start hearing the uprisings of the first Skyrim DLC this month, hopefully. It's been, 5? It's been 5 months since the release of the game. Like, I'm sure it'll do fine. I'm sure it's going to sell, and they're saying that it's going to be bigger. It's going to be like expansion packs, but that's pretty long into a game's life cycle for them to just now be getting there.
Fallout New Vegas did that, where Dead Money didn't come out for 4 or 5 months, and there was another long delay between that and Honest Hearts.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, I was done. Go ahead.
Okay. I almost like that, though, because if you get DLC too close to the launch of the game, it kind of like, for example, you could get, I can't remember with Mass Effect 2, but there was a mission you could get, and it came out right around the time everybody was beating the game, but it was a new squad mate, and it's like, all right, I beat the game. Yeah, I don't need this. Like, I don't need this anymore.
Well,
like
that.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. I want to talk about how angry From Ashes made me, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah, but with New Vegas, you get that, all right, I've beaten the game. Okay, all of this DLC is built to be played after you finish the game. So by waiting that long, they've given everybody enough time to finish it, including people who bought it, a month or two after release. And it's like, okay, cool, this expansion just came out. I can go ahead and try this now. I haven't played in a while. I want to jump back in. There it is. Just to segue into what you're going to say, with like Kasumi or, for you with From Ashes was useless because you had beaten the game already. And the entire value of that pack comes from having Javik in your party to comment on the events of the story, because I had it right from the start. So Javik, to me, was fully in the game. But
yeah. So when I played Mass Effect 3, because I was playing it for review before it came out, the DLC was not available yet. It was something I actually wanted to have a day one review for. Wasn't able to do it. Luckily, if you have already beaten the game, that DLC is a half an hour long. And it's frustrating because essentially what the game is doing to you is, I've already found all the doodads. I've already done all the N7 missions. I've already done everything. And it's like, oh, go to this planet. Oh, hi. You're going to fight Cerberus dudes for 20 minutes, talk to Javik for 10, and you're done. And I'm of the mind where, yes, you need to make sure that your DLC is integrated with the main game so that someone who is playing through for the first time can have that DLC and can have it as an integrated part of their game. You also need to make it so that it is meaty enough on its own for people who've already defeated it.
Exactly.
And you know what? If they had added 2 or 3 more missions, or even 1 or 2 more missions to From Ashes, it would have been an infinitely better DLC. But because it was clear that it was meant to be integrated DLC, they needed to have it be an online pass. They needed to have it be something else and not you're purchasing this separately if you didn't buy the collector's edition.
Yep, I didn't pick it up, and I feel like I missed out.
I agree with you completely, John. Even playing it, I said, this shouldn't have costed me $10. This should have been, I bought the game new, I have access to this, but if I buy it used, I don't. Because that's exactly what those online patches should be like. It's not essential to your experience, but if you get it at the end, it's useless.
Yeah, it truly is, and that's why I said it was not worth it to buy from Ashes. So I mean, it's frustrating. Though I guess to be fair, they are giving us the new DLC for free. So
Yeah, I think the more problematic implications come when Tales of Graces has a lot of bad DLC, but the main game is actually very well fleshed out. It doesn't feel rushed in any way. I mean, the game stands on its own, and you don't need the costumes at all. I mean, like,
Oh, yeah.
you can tell they completed the game, then the costumes were an afterthought, because the game itself it doesn't have a lot of costumes, but it has enough for like if you get aesthetically bored of your characters, you have like 20 or so costumes that you can change into and out of. But for the later Tales games, the more recent ones like Excelia and Innocence R, which, as I've said before, haven't been released in the U.S. yet, but this is all the more noticeable because they seem rushed. Their development doesn't seem to be very complete. Some people are saying that Excelia is going to get a director's cut in Japan later this year. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but they rush these games to production, rush these games to release, and then like afterwards they sell these $4 costumes. Where I was just feeling that, if you had the time to work on these costumes after the fact, why didn't you just delay the game and then give us a more complete package?
Well, that's actually a problem people had with Graces to begin with, because when it came out on Wii in Japan, it was supposedly super glitchy and like very unfinished feeling. I mean, I don't know. Didn't you play it on Wii, Ashton?
Yeah, they actually had a thing where you could send in your game disc and they would give you an unglitched one.
Okay.
But that's actually completely different because from Graces to Graces F, there was like a year of difference, and the future arc was actually not that big of a addition outside of a few dungeons and an extra playable character. The difference is here for Excelia and Innocence R, it's really obvious they rushed it out. Whereas the original Graces, it was more like, quality assurance was a little bit lacking in that one, but the game itself seemed relatively complete.
yeah, like I said, my only issue with it is because they're charging simply so much for aesthetic DLC. Like I really dig the game despite not having any interest in the characters.
Yeah, and a lot of apologists are going to listen to this podcast and then send us emails, and they're going to be all like, "Oh, but it costs the same in Japan, so it should cost them the same in the U.S." Well, that's not really an argument. It shouldn't cost that much in Japan, and even if it did, these games cost $90 each in Japan. Should they cost $90 each in the U.S.? I'm sure that's what publishers would want. I'm sure that's what developers would want, but that's just not the way it works.
Yeah, no, I understand. Though I would like to see more podcast email, podcast@rpgfan.com.
Thank you, John.
Right now.
All right, so go ahead.
Oh, you're cutting me off as I'm going on my spiel about us not getting any mail?
I wasn't sure. John, I'm sick. Don't be mean to me today.
Hey.
So I want to go in and read some of the podcast emails that we've received recently. So.
Oh God.
Wait, did these include blah blah Metal Gear Solid blah?
That was a while back.
That was a while back, but I'm going into emails that we've actually received over the past 2 weeks or so.
Oh boy, we got how many?
All right. From Jay McDonald. Good day. Our research staff has identified you and your company as one that may benefit from Google/SEO.
Oh man.
All right, next one. Hi, sir.
Legit.
Thank you very much for your time. Attached is Shure mic, Yamaha speaker, and Crown MPBX speaker, and Heiser mic prices list. Are you interested? Can you contact us?
What the F am I listening to?
He's
I'm
listening.
pretty interested.
You're listening to ads.
Spam. That's all we get now is spam.
We
So
don't
email
get
us.
anything else.
Ask us questions. Let us know what you think. Now, we get emails. Some of us get emails at our personal addresses, but the podcast email is very, very sad and lonely.
Sniff.
Yeah, I get more email than that, and I'm on like a crappy Gmail account.
Yeah, but here's what's going to happen. We're going to start getting emails. It's like, why didn't you give Xenoblade a 150%? Then we're going to find out it was Derek,
Yeah,
and we're all going to get upset.
Hey, I already told you I'm fine with your score.
I'm teasing.
That
I
goes
know.
to Rob's personal address. That has nothing to do with the podcast.
Yeah, seriously.
If you have
send that
beef
to me.
with a reviewer, email them. I don't care.
Yeah, and there are like a lot of emails to us about JRPGs and stuff every week. So if those guys could, send it to the podcast email, we'd be happy to read them and, or something.
And then I'd be sure to be like, yeah, we got some email, whatever.
It's not about
kidding, I wouldn't
Diablo.
do
Who
that.
cares?
Hey.
Are we ready for some news? Since Rob is talking about Diablo now, and I have to horribly cut him off.
Well, one of the things to talk about in news is the other game.
Hey,
What other?
Final Fantasy 13, I missed the article. Is there Prada DLC, or are they just modeling in some magazine?
No, they're just
Modeling.
they were just
That's just the modeling.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious, because I was going to say that's very different from the Final Fantasy.
Did you guys see the awesome article on 1UP this week? It was like, how can Final Fantasy, excuse me, Versus 13 not disappoint? You realize that game was announced over 6 years ago? We're coming up on the end of the life cycle for the current consoles, and we might start getting information about it this year.
Yeah, Square Enix has a really messed up development cycle.
I think wasn't there some rumor that they were going to retitle it Final Fantasy Type 1?
I have not heard that one.
Like, I heard they were going to retitle it because they don't want
the only
anything called
the only
13.
rumor I've heard about Final Fantasy 13 is that Versus 13 rather, is that Tetsuya Nomura said something about external factors preventing him from announcing anything at current, and some people are saying that that's because it's going to go multi-platform, which if it does, it's going to result in like a really huge storm of crap.
Why?
Well,
Who
I
cares?
think it just needs more zippers.
Who cares if it comes like really every major release these days by a third party is released on both consoles. Who cares?
People get really defensive with their consoles, Rob.
I know.
Yeah,
I was that way
haven't-
back in the
you never
Sega
saw-
Super NES days. Get
Well,
over.
Rob.
You never saw the hissy fits that some people threw when the multi-platform Final Fantasy 13 was released, and they said that it was because of the 360 version that the game was so crappy.
Okay.
I remember that now, actually.
All right, we're done.
That was really
We're-
bad.
We're done with that. We're going on to news.
All right, yeah.
All right, news. Final Fantasy. Mass Effect 3 DLC coming out. We're gonna have extended ending, and
Yeah,
that's
the
gonna come
summer.
out at some point in the future. And then actually, by the time you're listening to this podcast, there will be free multiplayer DLC, which is actually very, very exciting. 2 new maps,
Yes.
some new weapons, some new items, some new characters.
Is it wrong?
Krogan Vanguard, the combination of my 2 favorite things about Mass Effect 3. Vanguard, Sporadic Charge, and Krogans.
Is it wrong that I'm very disappointed with BioWare?
Because
Yes.
you're giving free DLC?
No, here's my problem with BioWare. I think that we all have our opinions about what they did with the ending. We're not going to spoil the ending for Mass Effect 3 in here, but I have my theories on the ending. I happen to think that they were trying to do something very unique with the ending, but they failed miserably. I think that's the problem with the ending. So now we're going to get a DLC like extended ending that will probably just elaborate on the ending that they went with to be like, yeah, this is actually what happened. And I just feel like they're folding like a cheap suit on this one. Like, again, if it sucks,
well, I mean-
it sucks. Get over it. Like,
Before we talk about that, I actually wanted to comment on the multiplayer DLC before we jumped into the ending DLC.
okay, do that first.
I think it's awesome that they're doing that because when you have other games like Call of Duty, and I'm sure like whenever Medal of Honor isn't awful and people actually play it,
Battlefield is EA's new first-person shooter.
exactly. With Battlefield, and you have paid DLC. The fact that they're taking this pretty high-profile game where people have responded pretty well to the multiplayer, and they're giving a pretty substantial content update. I mean, you're getting new guns, 2 new maps, a ton of new classes with characters that weren't available before, with new melee attacks. And I mean, in the case of the Geth, it looks like their HUD is even different. It's a pretty freaking sweet. And I recall them saying that this is not the only multiplayer update. So when they add Reapers to the next playable class update, I'm going to be very excited.
That would be really cool though. Is if you played as like one of the Reaper things and you were fighting against like Alliance troops.
No, I totally agree. Like Left 4 Dead style versus mode. Like you have the another side play as Cerberus or as the Reapers or as the Geth. That'd be really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
BioWare do that.
BioWare has got a lot of hate these days, but I think it's really cool that they're releasing this really substantial DLC for free. Like coming off the DLC debate we just had. Yeah.
That's DLC done right. It is.
Yes, exactly. But
it is.
And to segue into what you were saying, Rob, they've been very clear that they are not changing the ending; they're expanding it. And we don't want to go into ending spoilers, but they've been they've been intentionally vague. And even during the PAX panel, they said, in regards to the theory that you were mentioning, they didn't disconfirm that that's what they may be specifying. They've just said that they're going to add additional cutscenes to clarify things.
Right.
And that can be taken to mean a million different things.
Yeah, exactly. They're not changing the ending.
Yeah, they've just said they're not changing the existing scenes, but that doesn't mean that they can't add cutscenes that change the meaning of those scenes.
Yeah.
Right. I just, I don't think it's going to be substantial in any way. I don't think that all of a sudden the Reapers are going to turn into ice cream cones as much as I want them to. I just think, stand by your art. Even if nobody likes it, stand by it. You got to admire George Lucas to an extent, standing by his stance that, Greedo always shot first. Like, whatever, mental gymnastics.
I don't think George Lucas is the kind of person that you can say epitomizes stand by your art.
Yeah, George Lucas is a very commercial dude.
True.
I've been having...
I would say more like Bill Watterson.
I don't know who that is.
He's the guy who made Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh, okay.
Like, I've been having pretty heated arguments because I'm of the opinion that there's too much negativity around that game at this point. Yes, I didn't like the ending at all. But people, you can't talk about this game on the internet without it devolving into people just ripping into BioWare. Like, hey, Mass Effect 3 has multiplayer DLC. The ending sucked. BioWare are Nazis. We hate them. And you can't talk about the game in any meaningful capacity.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous how truly effective this is at conveying Godwin's law. And I've had that actually happen to me in real life and not online before, which is getting kind of to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah, and not to, but basically, you're at this point where, wow, I totally forgot where I was going with that.
People too angry.
People on both sides, and my roommate is very adamantly anti-BioWare now at this point. He hates everything they're doing. He thinks that they're selling out, and he demands that they change the ending. And I don't know. For me, I'm not comfortable with the idea of them, before it was announced what they were going to do, saying, oh, we're going to remove this ending and change it. Because that's exactly what George Lucas has come under fire for, is that you can't go out and buy a Blu-ray of the theatrical version of Star Wars. You just can't. And I don't like the idea of people saying to an artist, if you're going to contend that games are art, maybe they're a different form of art, hey, we don't like this, you have to change it, we don't want to be able to access that old version. I'm not comfortable with that.
No, I just think that what BioWare did was they went for something very unique with the ending, but I think it was very sloppy. And so what we're going to get is a confirmation of many of the theories that are out there. And that's fine. I don't think it's going to change the game that dramatically, but, it is what it is. But I think BioWare is kind of caving to pressure a little bit. And I don't know if that's good for the industry or not. You definitely want the fans to, the fans should keep the developers in check. If you don't like something, then don't buy it. But you should not demand a change and then all of a sudden get that change. You know what I mean? I just think it's a dangerous precedent. Like, I didn't like the ending to Fallout 3. And you know what they did? They added on an expansion, and they were like, yeah, we did kind of mess that up. Okay, let's fix it. That was a good example of it.
Yeah.
I think that they did it wrong with Broken Steel. Like, I do. I know that they got it wrong, but completely going and changing your ending, like, that's a pretty significant thing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't care for the ending of Fallout 3, but I agree, John. I think that blatantly disregarding it at that point is just, you can admit that you made a mistake artistically, but don't go back and try to delete it from existence.
Right.
Yeah, that is true.
No, I can agree with that.
Well, we'll move on. Steven wants me to talk about Jane Jensen having a Kickstarter for to create Sierra Online style adventure games. So you can talk about that all you want. I really don't know much about it, Steven.
I won't talk about it for too long, but basically we were talking earlier before the show about good and bad Kickstarter campaigns because there are so many now, and we had mentioned that the Kickstarter campaigns are great for games that are not going to get picked up by publishers because it's just they're not going to get sold enough. But Jane Jensen, who Gabriel Knight, Grey Matter, they're doing a Kickstarter campaign for a new company where they're going to try to release Sierra Online style adventure games, some 1 or 2 a year. The goal is pretty modest, but basically, they're letting people have input as to what the game is going to be. Is it going to be, this new original idea? Is it Grey Matter 2? And it's fairly small amounts. Like the highest donation is like $500, and that's like you get some ridiculous thing, but just a matter of pointing out that exists. It is a thing.
I like the Shadowrun Kickstarter.
I do as well.
I'm okay with that.
Hey, that one's already funded.
Already?
Yep, that one got funded after 1 day.
Oh man, I never got to check. Are they talking about a sequel to the totally awesome Super Nintendo Shadowrun?
I like them both.
They're creating a game from the ground up. Which, by the way, the Genesis version was better than the Super Nintendo.
Agreed.
Version.
Wait. We're talking the one where it was like almost point and click.
That was a Super Nintendo version. The Genesis version was more like an action RPG.
Okay, I never played.
Wait, so this isn't going to go in the vein of like that. I think it was like that 360 game, which was like a tactical shooter or something.
No, hopefully not.
Oh, thank God.
That one was bad.
Oh, hey, you know what? As much crap as the 360/PC Shadowrun got, I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was a good tactical shooter, and the whole powers thing made it different. Like, truly being able to have a class teleport through a wall and all of a sudden, oh, holy crap, he's right there. That was great. It just it could have been not called Shadowrun, and I think people would have liked it better.
I think the gameplay in it was cool too. Like, I think if I recall, the problem with it was there was like not enough content. There was only like a couple of maps and no.
Yeah, there were only a few maps on PC. It was only available for Win Vista, and this was when Win Vista was first coming out.
Oh yeah, that was a bad move.
So it was because it was one of the first games for Windows Live, and the cross-platform stuff was great. I remember because I was playing on Win Vista, and everyone would try and play with me because they would get an achievement.
We have to play with John. We have to be his friend. We'll get an achievement.
Oh yeah, no,
for it.
Playing a party with a player on another platform, and so it was like you play a game with me, you get an achievement. So I was incredibly popular.
I was sitting there with my Shadowrun books open, hoping that someone would play with me and that it would hook up somehow to the PC game. It didn't. So
actually, that reminds me. I wanted to ask you a question about Shadowrun later, Bob.
It's awesome.
So anyway, we'll go on from here. The Witcher now available for Mac, the original one. Yeah.
Good
as well.
Speaking of The Witcher, it's like another 10 days before Witcher 2 comes out for the 360.
Yes, that's where I was going. The enhanced edition is now gold. On the 11th, you can start preloading the PC version if you already own The Witcher 2. It'll be available on the 17th if you are an Xbox 360 owner. And we'll talk about that after the show, Ashton.
Do you have to download the whole game again, or do I just have to download a patch for my PC version?
Patch.
Yeah,
patch,
it's
I
a
would
patch.
imagine. Yeah.
So starting on the 11th, you can start preloading that patch, but it won't be able to be used until the 17th.
Cool. Let's hope they fix some things.
Yay, CD Projekt Red. I love that game.
Love those guys.
CD Projekt is awesome.
They are good folks. Kingdom Hearts, derp, 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 coming out.
I don't approve of your tone.
Coming out July 31st. The 3DS Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, North America 31st.
You guys are totally trying to marginalize me as like the only person here that likes Kingdom Hearts. Wait, no, Derek likes Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I like Kingdom Hearts.
I love Kingdom Hearts. Derp, derp, derp was pretty epic.
Honestly, like I have no problem with Kingdom Hearts. Not really my kind of game, but that's an awful title, and you know it.
I'm not denying that it's an awful title, but neither is 358 over 2 days.
Yeah, well,
And
see,
you know what? You know what? I couldn't come up with, and I really didn't come up with this. It's been all over the internet, but there's no good pun for that. Whereas you have something that has Kingdom Hearts DDD. Well, derp 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 makes sense.
All right, fine. Henceforth, we will refer to it on the show as Kingdom Hearts 3D.
Okay, fine. Pokemon Nobunaga is coming out in North America.
My head exploded when I heard
Yeah.
this.
How do you feel about that, John?
I am so happy. I started a thread on our forums. Seriously, this is absolutely amazing that we're
really
getting
want to play
this.
it. And it's on the regular.
Kind of mind-blowing that we're actually getting that game.
Is it on the DS?
Yes, it's an original DS game.
I want to play this so bad.
It's a 6-on-6 tactical RPG. It.
No,
I know.
Fasts Eevee.
It's so.
Go, Bulbasaur! Use Vine Whip on Nobunaga now.
Hell, equip your Charmander.
Dude,
I seriously don't even care what the quality of this game is going to be. I'm buying it on day one.
yeah, I have to admit, they sold it to me on the concept alone.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that thing in Conduit 2 where you see the ending and it's like the rest of the game was a pile, but you see the ending and it's like, oh, this is awesome.
Is that the ending where George Washington and Abraham Lincoln show up in mech suits?
Yes.
I watched that on YouTube the other day. I thought I was high.
Yeah.
I was like, what just happened?
Yeah, because it was in an article about how it was like one of the worst endings that was worse than Mass Effect 3. I'm all like, oh no, this completely proves that it's clearly superior to Mass Effect 3's ending.
Yeah, you beat Conduit 2, and out of a portal comes George Washington and Abraham Lincoln in power armor. And even the main character just goes, what?
Well, at least he reacts realistically.
It's so bizarre. It's like...
It's really surreal. It's really surreal.
I'm proud of it, though. But yes, I think we should all get Nobunaga's Pokemon, or whatever the hell it's called.
It's being called Pokemon Conquest in North America. However, the correct name is Pokemon Nobunaga.
Oh, my sweet Jesus.
It's nice to see there are people willing to take a risk with silly things.
Well,
Hey, I'm going to keep calling it Pokemon Nobunaga.
Yeah, that's its name. Though honestly, this is like the absolute. There's a reason why they changed the name to Pokemon Conquest, because they're really marginalizing the Nobunaga's Ambition tie-in in North America, just in regards to marketing.
Probably because they want to sell it.
Yeah, like
Kids are all going to be like, who's Nobunaga?
yeah. Well, like I said on Twitter when I saw the box art is 10-year-olds are gonna be like, man, who's that Asian guy on the cover of this game?
That's Ash when he grows up.
It's Professor Nobunaga.
See, all I know him as is the dude that took an arrow to the neck in Onimusha.
I choose you, Shinsengumi!
So that's going to be out on June 18th for the Nintendo DS. We're all very excited for that.
There is a
yes,
god
we are.
confirmed. I would put that over Diablo 3.
There is a god and he is just.
No. Wow, I opened up this news story from Liz that says there was oh, there it is. Okay. Heroes of Ruin from N-Space and Square Enix, a beat 'em up RPG for 3DS, going to be out on June 26th.
In the US?
Yes.
Cool.
Interesting.
Has anybody had a chance to really look at that or try it out? I was curious at how it was.
I played it at E3 last year. It was a fun beat 'em up. It didn't seem at that point to have anything that was particularly spectacular, but it was an entertaining hack and slash.
Can't argue with that.
I mean, it's entertaining, but is it like $40 entertaining?
I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm sure it's got a crap load of content.
Yeah, we'll see.
Steven loves content.
So actually, I want to spend a little bit more time on this little news story because the company is buying ads with us, and I like that. Actually, I've had a little bit of chance to play around with it. Confrontation just came out this past Thursday, and it's a very interesting game. It's a PC quasi turn-based tactical RPG. Well, what does that mean? It's pretty much Baldur's Gate with only 4 characters. So you can pause the game, issue commands, and you're going through, Baldur's Gate style maps. It's really interesting. It's done by Cyanide, the guys who did Blood Bowl. They're doing the
Game of
Thrones. It's really a very interesting title. I'm sure that there's demos available. I can't confirm that because I have no data available. But it's actually very, very interesting. If you're a fan of old school PC style RPGs, this one's probably going to be right up your alley.
Cool.
Nice.
Will we be having a review of it when it's full out in full?
I may. I'm got other stuff on my plate right now though. So I'm sure I can find us a reviewable, and if someone wants to play that, like Rob, who owes me.
I do not owe you that much.
It's not a bad game, Rob. It's not like I'm trying to hand you Arcania. How's that going, Steven?
You know what? Everybody's expecting me to rant and rave about how bad it is. The game is super duper clunky and kind of stupid, but it's mildly enjoyable. Like the combat it's just a generic slice people up RPG.
Okay.
It's not particularly broken in any area except that the characters behave like complete retards.
That they do. Kings of Amalur has some new DLC coming out here soon. The Teeth of Naros is going to be out on April 17th. And you're going to be fighting an ancient troll god. That's interesting.
In a flying city.
Yes.
Now,
And 18 new weapons.
actually, I had a question about that. The 18 new weapons, are they adding new weapon types, or is it just like here's a new unique chakra?
I'm guessing that would be a new unique chakram. I don't think they're going to be adding new weapon types.
Okay. So, because not that I don't think that's awesome, but it's like the game has so much loot already. I just don't feel like that would have much impact beyond. Like, I think the new area would be cool.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's probably only going to be $10 like the other one, and I'm sure it will be happy, fun time.
I
Wasteland
just
2
want to mention here quickly, since we were just talking about reviews. I'm not sure when this will be up, but as I mentioned before, I mentioned this game before, but my Tales of Innocence review will be up sometime for the PS Vita.
Yes, that will be up soon-ish when we get a major update slot that's free.
Yeah, we've had a lot of influx of reviewable content this month.
Yeah. So that will be up probably around the time that you're listening to this, dear listeners.
Yeah, if you are interested at all in import gaming.
Yes. Going back to Kickstarter, the Wasteland 2 Kickstarter, actually, this news story was posted before. It hit $2.1 million, which means that Obsidian is actually going to be involved with the new Wasteland game.
Why does
Really?
that worry me?
Because
Obsidian, wow. I'm not sure if want.
you know what?
Obsidian
Honestly,
makes good games.
Stop. Honestly, guys, despite the fact that their games come out buggy because of budget or publisher or whatever, they're top tier guys. Chris Avallone is a great writer. I don't think.
I definitely agree on that point.
Yeah,
I don't think that this is.
Go ahead.
This is not something to be worried about. This is good for this game.
No, I like Obsidian. I mean, I thought Dungeon Siege 3 it was not buggy at all. I just think it had some bizarre design
and that's the thing. I think that when you have every other Obsidian game, I don't think has had the correct scope and budget to create a AAA title. They tried with Alpha Protocol, and I don't know if that was design choices or what. But I think if you give Obsidian a solid plan, a solid amount of time, and what they need to succeed, they create a game that is polished like they did with Dungeon Siege.
I totally agree. Playing the original Fallout, a lot of the same guys. Fallout 1 is glitchy as hell, but it's still fantastic. And I think they've always had fantastic, designers. It's just they haven't had the budget or the time they need to get stuff done. I mean, I've been playing a little more in New Vegas, and that game's writing is infinitely better than Fallout 3.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, I think what some of you have said earlier, where their scope for the budget or time doesn't actually line up with their what they think they're going to do. When Alpha Protocol was one of those, which is why after a certain point in their development, I think it was Sega just I think it was the publisher. I think it was Sega. I'm not sure if
Sega published it literally 6 months.
Yeah, they were all just stop development and just give it to us as is. So that's why they had no real ending for that. It just kind of stops abruptly, and there were no post-release patches for it for all the bugs and glitches either.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll do well with Wasteland 2. I'm excited. I think that they'll do it right. I think that because they're not going to have probably a major art team because it's going to be isometric. I don't worry. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to buy it now that Obsidian is involved. Well, you know what? It's not going to be a bad thing. It's truly not.
Yeah, I didn't mean for my statements to make it sound like I was being negative on them.
Sorry,
so.
No. I'm not saying that yours, but there have been a lot of people that I've seen that have been like, "Oh man, Obsidian's involved. It's gonna totally suck."
Yeah, it's definitely not
Yeah,
fair.
strong God held that opinion.
Obsidian's a good developer. It's just mostly that they've had a run of bad luck with some publishers.
Yeah.
So that will be out. Xseed has announced they're localizing Unchained Blades Rex.
Yeah.
Unchained Blades for PSP and 3DS. It's a dungeon crawler, but it's got lots of art from lots of folks who have made other games.
And it's got a pretty cool soundtrack.
Yes. So I mean, if you like wizardry style games, go for that. Actually, that ties into another wizardry style game. There's a Kickstarter for Class of Heroes 2 from our good friend Victor Ireland.
Cool.
And they're localizing Class of Heroes 2. They've got a Kickstarter where they are asking for $500,000 because they want to make super ultra fancy collector's editions of the game.
Well, boys, I'm feeling.
No, I'm not done. I got one more.
Oh boy. Okay. I can make.
NIS America just announced they're localizing 3 titles at their press event: Mugen Souls, Legacista, and
Mugen Souls, man. Mugen.
Mugen. No, Mugen. It's Mugen.
It's Mugen?
No, I'm sure it's Mugen because I'm speaking like an American, even though I know what the Japanese phonetic system is.
Oh, okay.
No, it is. I'm sure it is Mugen Souls. That was a slip of the tongue, as it were. And they're also localizing Witch and the 100 Knights. Legacista is a dungeon crawler it's a PSN download. Mugen Souls, aka Infinite Souls, is PS3. I don't have actually the platform here. Oh yes. Oh no, all 3 of these games are PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
Mugen Souls has some really weird stuff going on. Like it's bizarre. You should watch the trailer that we've got on the website.
I am terrified of that game.
Yes, that game is going to be some pretty weird stuff. And then The Witch and the 100 Knights, actually previously announced, developed in-house at NIS. It's an open-world fantasy RPG with a battle between 2 witches. And you have to find out which is witchier and who is the witcher. Oh, wait, no.
Well, the Witcher can show up and kill both.
Who's the witchest?
Who's the witchiest?
Witchiest.
I mean,
Yes.
Wait. Do I get to touch them in order to find out which one is the real
Whoa! All right, I think we're done here.
witch?
What, you don't like Mako Shindoji Shin? What is it called?
When I heard Mugen Souls, I got
Majo Shinpan.
when I heard
Doki Doki. Yeah.
when I heard
Doki Doki
Mugen
Majo
Souls, I got
Shinpan.
really excited for a second, and then I realized it's not the game that I want.
Yeah,
What is the
same
game?
here. I thought it was like that
Rob.
in a Frontier game.
Oh, can I real quickly? So somebody on N4G, and I love N4G and I love Kotaku, but since N4G you have people that go out and find news stories. Somebody put up a story that was like Dark Souls sequel confirmed. It gets like 1,000 hits. It's like one of the front page news stories. It's an interview from like 3 months ago where the director of the series was like, yeah, totally, the story's going to continue. And it was like, dude, it had already been reported on multiple times. Some dude just decided to get some hits. Like, come on, man.
I mean, that's how a lot of news gets around. Is somebody will say something in an interview or something, and it will be something that's very demure and something that's pretty straightforward, and then somebody blows it up with a headline that really has nothing to do with what that person has actually said.
But this was the second time that the headline had been posted. It had been posted 3 months earlier.
No, I understand that.
I'm just saying that I think this podcast needs a segment like Monday Night Football where it's, come on, man. I think we need to have a segment like that for the games industry.
Look, honestly, I want to start a new website and simply have the most inflammatory and absurd headlines ever. Just take things completely out of context when I'm reporting on them.
I like it.
Yeah,
you know what? We've been talking about kind of trying to get RPG Fan to be database driven in regards to its backend because it's really, really primitive. That could be the website that I work on to get the database stuff done.
Yeah, you can call it WTF Reviews or something.
Wow, what's that? God, you scare me, Ashton, because that's actually a domain that I was thinking about parking.
We'll have things up on the website like
Diablo 2 has no level system.
Or Diablo 3 cures Parkinson's.
Mass Effect 3's ending and it's awesome.
You know what we could just call it? We could just call it Kotaku.
Oh.
Snap!
Oh, sorry guys.
Snap.
Hey, they've got a column. What's it called?
I forget. All right, John, can we
it
wrap
was
this
called
thing up?
Saint
Because
Paul or
All
something.
right, we're done.
think
We are
that's
done.
fine.
I hope
All
that
right.
you enjoyed us going off on really weird tangents during news. Anyway, this is John McCarroll for Rob, for Ashton, for Derek, and for Steven. We hope that you've enjoyed yourself, and we will hear from you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, buddy.